Okay, so finally we're starting the first tier list for whichever campaign it is of Victoria Free on the 4X server. And let's get started with the rolling, because there's actually still quite a few nations left. Let's see, there's a bit of a meta of which the nation is going to be first. Okay, Russia, we're going to be starting strong. Because I don't really know yet what is the state of the world. I mean, I kinda know, but I don't really know a lot of the details. But first, the first might be judged harshly or more leniently, depending on what the vibe I get. And my vibes can be wrong. I see fairly strong socialist movement, interesting. Liberals, feminists, but no one really protesting much, which is pretty typical. Russia is obviously #1 economy in the world. Yeah, by a quite significant margin. Not. How is the population? Yeah, pretty good advantage. It's pretty surprising that Austria and French Republic have identical populations, and Britain right behind it. Though Britain usually has some lands all over the place, which is changing the calculation. Though half of Africa belongs to France, so this is also having an effect. I think Madagascar is, yeah, directly controlled Taiwan as well. That's a lot of population going to France. Still massive population, which is giving Russia a huge advantage. A lot of loyalists as well. Truly massive amount. The taxes, yeah, taxes are medium level, which is to be expected. Very small amount of authority, which is always sad. Just no ability to get any consumption taxes. Greener grass campaigns in Baku, which obviously is for the oil. Wonder, is it still necessary? I guess it is, because there's barely any buildings here. There's going to be, like, just those 240 buildings is going to be, yeah, over half a million employment, more or less. I mean, it's actually probably... Wonder how much this greener grass campaign is necessary. Of course, yeah, the tooltip and what actually shows over here is all over the place, because the game needs to play for a week to recalculate this particular migration attraction stuff. And I cannot let the game run, because then AI changes stuff all over the place, so unfortunately this will have to do. It's hard to judge. I'm not sure which information is correct. I assume the one in the tooltip. But it's hard to say. I assume people would migrate to Baku on their own at this point. There's like a decent enough population, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's look. 100% legitimacy, really good. That's where a lot of those loyalists are coming from, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 2 million just from that. More from standards of living, but actually the best thing about having legitimacy is not gaining radicals, because you can get a ton of them just from having unstable government. When it comes to laws, of course, Russia is a republic after the revolution, still having national supremacy, which probably... I don't think they have really that much of a problem with oppressed pops. You know, like 25% of the population is not in the first tier, which honestly is not that much. And 12% is the second tier, so honestly the vast majority of pops are accepted, despite having fairly restrictive national laws. The separation, mass conscription, really good. Guaranteed liberties, which is interesting. Russia with National Guard would have a crazy amount of conscripts, though actually battalions is probably not what Russia needs at the moment. Interventionism, interestingly enough, so not laissez-faire. Mercantilism still, I assume, because there was no opportunity to really change it, because like I think pretty much every law is better than mercantilism. I mean, protection just for the change of the production method. Tenant farmers still, I assume the landowners have pretty much no influence. Yeah, they're out of like below 5% cloud. And still with Even with plus 25%. They really have no clout, damn. And colony exploitation, of course, no police, although I guess with no radicals that's not really a problem. Of course, public schools, public health insurance, and must-haves. A protected speech, very important for Russia because they are behind on tech, so need to catch up. Compulsory primary school, really good. Women's suffrage. So yeah, Russia is not going to run out of peasants for a long time because it's not only growing in population just by almost 2 million every year, there's also a stream of workers coming from the pops becoming more and more, more of the pops becoming workers actually with the women's suffrage. And this workforce ratio is so slow, it might last till like the end of the campaign. Like honestly, even if we look now, I actually have no clue when Russia passed this law. I remember as Netherlands passed this a while ago, and I'm pretty sure the pops are nowhere close to being the like 35 or what about they should be. I should be able to see it somewhere around here. Yes, it's a 35 out of 40, and I've passed this like decades ago at this point. So Russia apparently is 8 years ago, so let's see. Laborers, accepted pop. Yeah, 32 out of 25. And they do have trade unions as well, which I'm not sure if it's affects the speed or anything. But it's really slow. It's hard to get to the actual top ratio, to be honest, for some reason. So yeah, laws, pretty much well-established republic. Limiting colonial affairs. I assume most people should be doing this at this point. Is there anything else to colonize even? I don't think so. Maybe someone forgets some island somewhere, but probably not. Because you can actually see those places, yeah, within this menu. So I assume everyone should be lowering their institution for colonialism, and if they not, I will point it out. Yeah, making a ton of money, which is probably the biggest national revenue in the game, with government wages. Yeah, I really don't like keeping like medium government wages, even though it's still money going to your pops and so on. I just like to get more construction, though I guess Russia doesn't really need that much. They are a bit more resources restricted, I assume, than, for example, Netherlands. Their market having... The problem with looking at market is everyone is trading so much with each other. Is going to be difficult to assess some of this stuff. Russia is actually self-sufficient on coffee somehow, which is interesting. They do have some more southern states. I care a lot about my pop wealth. That's worth more to me than more construction at this point. Yeah, I mean, once you have over 4,000 construction, I suppose that's fair enough. And also, like, almost 1 million in negative balance is not really a problem when you can have over 500 million in credit. Tea is... honestly, like, there's not that many goods. I assume that demand for these goods is just increasing massively because I think the standards of living of Russia might be increasing fairly quickly as well. They are quite high, but still quite away from the top. And I mean, they cannot quite get into top 10 with peasants, but just the sheer amount of people. Interesting market insights, trade routes, all countries grouped by goods. Yeah, I just want to check the market in general. I will check the trade routes as well. Engines, Russia is probably number one. It's not number one producing of engines, and it's actually quite behind France, though I assume... They are exporting quite a bit, importing a bit as well, but that's, you'll see it in like a lot of markets. People are just importing a ton of stuff and exporting at the same time to other people. Yeah, opium, of course, importing a ton. Rubber plantations. Oh, I guess from Ethiopia. That's part of Russian Empire. Steel, this is where the Russia is leading in production. Glass, of course, very cheap, which is really good for construction. Sulfur. Yeah, man, out of goods over here, like engines are plus 8%, which is not really that much of a problem. So industrial goods are really, really cheap in Russia. Pretty much everything is. Though there's nothing, the economy got so massive that there's nothing that goes like to really cheap price because there's huge demand for everything. This is something to take into account as well. Because like if you're a bit of a smaller economy, you can get something to like minus 40% in price. It wouldn't be like beneficial, but it could be useful for your state budget or something like that. For Russia, it might be a bit too big of an economy to actually manage stuff like that. Of course, oil is very important for Russian economy, and they still have a lot of capacity to increase this production. But let's look at trade routes. It's I could look quite good, I guess, yeah. So exporting to a ton of nations, 11k oil sent to Spain, which Spain has, I guess, no access to oil, huh? By themselves, okay. 8, look at the amount of convoys used in those trade routes, oh my god. Oil is surprisingly heavy. Exporting a lot of... Is there anything that Russia imports in huge numbers? They're importing and exporting similar amounts of lead, similar amounts of iron. That's going to be so. And they are importing a ton of tools, so there is some things that Russia is not really producing themselves, and they are importing almost all of it from Austria, which is interesting. They are importing almost all of their dye from Mexico. Mexico is apparently like one of the biggest trader nations in the world. Engines importing and exporting. Explosives importing quite a lot, so I assume they're, of course, from Mexico. I assume then they are not really producing that much fertilizer. And no, they're doing fine on that. Okay. Importing with sulfur. Importing fabric from Byzantium. Okay, I wouldn't expect that. Not exporting that much grain, to be honest, at this point of the game. I'm not going to be checking every market in that much detail, but Russia is pretty important. Russia, Great Britain, France, I might check out in more detail. Exporting ammunition, of course. Exporting porcelain. Importing radios. Is mostly from the United States. Is Russia building their own radios? Can they even have access to radios? No, and that's pretty big deal. Radios are pretty important at this point. And I assume they're already using them. Oh, okay, that was a lag. I assume they are using some of the radios. Yep, for their fleet at least, and for their military. And they should have some artillery. Yeah. Apparently, Russia can switch to electronic engines, so yeah, that will boost the production by a ton. Though it might be difficult to... No, electric engines are going to have better price anyway, so it will be easy to replace the incoming engines. It should be. Oh, clicking on the military UI is lagging because you probably cannot see this, but Russia has 1700 battalions, which is spread into like 40 armies. Which it might be... I understand that the Russian player's plan is to spread the armies, so in case the front spread, they can split the armies in two, but this is getting a bit excessive. I don't think there's going to be 37 front lines. I mean, with Victoria 3 it's possible, but unlikely, and at this point it might be a bit of an overkill. Not that much trading going on. Surprising there's not that much meat when it's so expensive. Is there no way for Russia to import better meat? I mean, a little bit. I guess people are not producing that much. Maybe worldwide there's a meat problem. Not that much cars. Usually cars are pretty big when it comes to import and export. Though the price is pretty low already. Like, yeah, +8. So Russia is producing a fair amount by themselves. And not importing any telephones, which is interesting. That means, because they're not Russia is not producing any themselves because they don't have the tech, that means Russia doesn't have the bureaucracy production method, which is not a big deal, but eventually will be something that will have to be managed, and then they will need a ton of telephones. Russia does not belong to a power block currently, which is a pretty big deal. Let's look at tech. So we got the third era finished, half finished with the fourth era. Yeah, missing radios, which is pretty important at this point. Getting the electric arc process, which is going to boost the steel production by a lot, though it is still a bit behind, and they are actively researching in production. In the military, finishing the fourth era, so actually not that bad. Yeah, and this actually, the research on those is so fast, even with the technology spread, because of all the bonuses. And the literacy, I mean, literacy is pretty good, all things considered. So this will be finished in like, what, 5 years, and then they will be getting the final era, which techs over here are pretty much all really, really good. They are going to be behind for a few years, but after that, they're just going to be really good in the position. And bit behind over here, but that's probably, I mean, some of those tags would be really beneficial for the economy in one way or the other, but it's not the biggest deal when you have already such a massive economy. But let's look at what Russia is actually doing on the map. So currently they don't really have any strictly alliance. They don't belong, as I said, they don't belong to any power block. They're just a power on their own, and they have made a bit of a ingression into Bulgaria and Moldavia, but it's not that much. Like, took half state from Austria, and at the beginning of the game took a bit from the Ottomans. I think Kars got united by Russia, which is like basically a border adjustment more than anything. Took the Central Asia, took the states from China. They get claim on. They're going to get the rest of Sakhalin and Hokkaido from Japan, as it's being puppeted by Mexico, naturally, as things go. And they do control Ethiopia, which how much of it is converted, I wonder? They're probably not converting as aggressively as... Oh, actually, yeah, it's Oriental Orthodox, so people might be, even if they are converting, they might be converting to Oriental Orthodox anyways. But at least this might have been the case when they were trying to convert them actively. Let's actually look at the religion map mode, because Russia was pretty active in this region, not for a long time. Well, they did manage to convert Bahrain and Kafri, so there is some mild successes in the area. And overall, there's a bunch of Orthodox all over the place. Though not, they didn't spend as much time as they could have. And Zanzibar, for some reason. Yeah, religion conversion takes a long time. So I'm not surprised it's not as effective. But they could, if they had like 20 more years, they would have done it. Apparently Russia is going to be setting up a power block for next session, so we'll see how they do about that. Just for curiosity, the companies. This is a really good one. Of course the UI is breaking, but yeah, it's a really good one. Of course, oil and... I guess textile mills. Textile mills are actually kind of nice in that there's going to be always demand for more of them because population just needs them. It's like the furniture and groceries. And the entire time I didn't remove the roulette, which probably wasn't as big of a problem as I thought at first. Okay, so where to put Russia? Russia and, like, judging Russia and Great Britain usually is pretty tough, or like India and China if they're just playing as in vanilla, because they just get really powerful, and they're supposed to be kinda really powerful. But what did Russia achieve on the map? They're not part of a power block, which is, I think, a huge issue. Like, outside of their natural borders, they have a bit of Bulgaria, a bit of Moldavia, and Ethiopia. And they lost Finland. That's actually also the case. I mean, I think they go into A, basically. I mean, it's really good, but just nothing like, you know, that would really wow me. And of course, as I said, for Great Britain and Russia and other nations that will get into super powerful state in like natural projection of the game, as when if only AI is played. Actually, AIs would be pretty bad at reforming, but generally speaking, I think it's hard to get into S when you start as a superpower. Yeah, Russia won the great game on the technicality. They don't have basically any control over Korea other than they are guaranteeing their independence, which means they secured their neutrality. They secured neutrality of Persia, which joined another market and another bloc. So it's kind of wins against Great Britain technically. They don't have basically any influence over Afghanistan. Like, there's no threat to British Raj out of Russia at the moment. Yeah, that was technicality of the game for Russia to win the great game. So I'm not really counting this as their advantage. But let's go to another nation because I've already spent way too much on the first one. Which probably is going to be the longest one. Let's see. And we're not going to be moving far. It's Persia this time. Yay! Let's remove this one. And let's look at Persia. Persia I actually haven't seen that much. Interesting flag. What even are they? Are they a theocracy? Yes. With universal suffrage. Just an interesting combination. Professional army, hereditary bureaucrats, per capita taxation still. How much is their budget? They could gain like not actually that much more from proportional taxation, so it's not the end of the world. All things considered. Laissez-faire, free trade, and farmers, dedicated police force, of course, religious schools, charity hospitals. They don't really have. They still have slave trade. Okay. I assume the landowners are not at all that powerful. Yeah, 9.8%, so it's not the end of the world. But they're going to be like almost removed from power with this. Some of these children's rights and rights of women laws are not really that advanced. But at the same time, oh, they don't have any peasants, or like barely any. Institutions as much as possible, I suppose. They don't really have that many problems with radicals, so they don't need police as much. Good legitimacy, which is really important. Low taxes, so that's interesting. Almost 500 construction. I assume that's not bad for what Persia is. High wages for government and military, which is interesting. Might be trying to stimulate demand on stuff, possibly. This is part of the Byzantine market, so might as well take a look at that as well. Engines are a problem, which I think it will be the case in a lot of places. They are importing a ton from France, I assume, from Austria actually, a bit from Russia, mostly from Austria. Still using clippers. Yeah, radios are not really a factor here. Importing the majority of their glass from Mexico, of course. Mexico being the grand player when it comes to the trade all over the place. Mexican grain coming. It's probably not Mexican grain. Looking at the Mexican market is going to be really, really interesting. They trade with everyone on everything. Is the fish also coming from Mexico? Yes. Not all of it, but a lot. Does Roleplay MP include modded games of Wiki Free? It is a modded game, technically speaking, but I think there's going to be the plan that the next campaign is going to be something more than just balance changes and like minor adjustments. I believe that's the plan. They have their own coal and their own steel, at least in the Byzantine market, so that's pretty good. It's not like they're importing everything. Of course, they're importing rubber because that's the big. Finally, something from the Dutch. We are trading in something. Explosives from America, of course. America bringing the explosives. I mean, honestly, not too bad. I'm expecting that we won't see anyone having real problems with raw goods. Even at this stage. Like, for some reason, I'm actually not really sure. There is an adjustment so that there's more production of raw goods possible in case there's high demand and not and already a lot of production, just like a mod thing. You can see it over here. Those can fire, but I don't think they're fired anywhere, and like over here even, there's a lot more potential for more construction of raw goods. Maybe we're still... I mean, we are early, but I think like we industrialized quite fast. Britain is apparently having problems with raw goods. That actually... Yeah, that might be... The reason is that, first of all, China and India are not being played, so they're not industrializing it as much. And China is even collapsed. So even Britain industrializing India somewhat is going to be running problems with resources, because like the more pops you have, the more resources you need. So maybe that's part of the explanation. The power block, of course, is suffering from super low cohesion because they are the Byzantine Empire is not a great power, so they get a weak block penalty. They're trade league with external trade. They're going to take forever to get mandates, but they do have... I mean, pretty much it's Persia and Byzantium, and that's it in the power block. Still, they're like doing well on their own, without any, like pretty much any... They don't have any great powers in their ally. Persia was like accepted as guaranteed by Russia and British Empire. So that's a thing. Let's look at tech. This is actually really important. So on production, a bit behind Russia. About the same literacy as Russia, so not too bad. Ooh, that's rough. Not even trench infantry, and not even close to that. Like, that's going to be years before they get there. Of course, they could rush, but that's... I mean, if they rush, they could be done in 3 years, so that's not too bad. Indian market map is hideous. What? Markets. I mean, it's not great. It's not actually too bad. Yeah, so this is kind of rough. Persians are going to depend on their mountains to defend them pretty much. And society bit behind, but honestly not that... other than military. Not that far behind, but military is a huge problem. Yeah, this will take a long time to actually... like a full era, even with the turbo speed of the modern technology spread. And they have -20 from being unrecognized. I wonder their regional power. They would need to be a major power to be able to achieve sovereignty. We're not recognized. I guess, okay, it's part of the great power things. So they would need to be major unrecognized power or something like that. Yeah, major unrecognized power to become recognized, which is probably going to be a bit of a problem for them. How's their military looking? I mean, in raw numbers, not too bad, but power projection is also going to be affected by their technology, and not that much fleet as well. They do control most of their GDP, just Byzantium being the only investor pretty much. Decent standard of living, Do they produce any of oil? A little bit. They could probably be producing much more eventually. Bravely the toaster is not happening every time. It's I think last time it was at the end of the campaign, and I was thinking about changing the awards for this tier list, but I think I would prefer to do just more awards at the end of the campaign instead of like changing them every time for mid-campaign tier lists. What did Persia achieve this campaign, like, geopolitically? I mean, they controlled, they took Basra at least from the Ottomans, which is a pretty good state. Not really highly developed, but I mean, just oil and sulfur is going to be worth it. And they do control, you know, I think the entire Afghanistan, right? It's pretty much, and like Pakistan as well, if at least half of it, I think. I don't think they start with Balochistan. Yeah, claims British Raj. Yep. Not German Federation for nominated for Sick Men of Europe, which I mean, I kind of expected that to happen. But so let's see what's going to be the unexpected nominees for awards. Yeah, Baku would look really nicely joining the rest of the Persian. What do you even call them? Theocracy? Just Persian, but they are a republic as well. So, as in, they have votes, universal suffrage, which is pretty democratic in this game. So, yeah, Persian is probably because there's the problem with judging Persia is they are the only unrecognized player in the game, I think. Because Byzantium is recognized, everyone here is recognized. Yeah, I think Persia is the only unrecognized player. Which means they are just naturally going to be behind, even just the penalty from the rank is going to be very significant to them. For some reason it's not really showing those variables. The GDP is 14th in the world. Let's see how they compare. Oh, it doesn't work, okay. And the ledger just doesn't work. So they do have higher GDP than Mexico, though Mexico is trading so much and trading doesn't give you GDP. Let's see, they have 10 million less than Italy. Oh, only works when on post. Yeah, that's unfortunate then. They do have more than Mexico. They have double of Gran Colombia with 25 million in population, which is going to be, yeah, a lot more than Gran Colombia. They are a subject, like part of the power block of Byzantium. I think I will put them in A, honestly. Like, just getting Afghanistan should be pretty good result for Persia. Just getting this and keeping it at 1985 and like not being really under threat by anyone in their current position. I think that's pretty good. If that's as good as you can hope for when you start with Persia. And yeah, a bit of a boost because they are the only recognized power as well. Oh, it's Belgium. It's going to be interesting. I mean, honestly, probably not that many weird things with Belgium these days, but let's look at them. Oh. It's okay, it's running fine. I'm not sure, was Belgium was played at the end of the last session, right? I mean, they're improving relations with everyone all over the place. Yeah, I mean, then maybe they were trying to get investments into China, but those things are annoying and take a bit of time. Going for no migration controls. Looks like this one might be difficult. Maybe it's some kind of play to piss off one of the movements into action. Belgian supremacist movement is being suppressed. What kind of ethno-state is this? Oh yeah, by the way, the laws of Belgium, monarchy, with state avism, which is a technocracy, ethno-state, secret police, of course. Per capita taxation, which is for Belgium, I assume, quite painful. Yeah, they could really increase their taxes income by quite a bit by switching this, though. I mean, would it be even that difficult? Industrialists wouldn't oppose it that much, even landowners wouldn't. And trade unions at least support it, so it wouldn't be impossible to do. Yeah, actually, I don't think Persia had any debt. I think they had a surplus, which is, as a recognized nation, of course, very smart, because they do have interest of like 20%, even with laissez-faire, which is crazy. Like, you really cannot take that with this much interest. And Russia, I assume, has like the tiniest amount of debt. Yeah. So Belgium is the first one of the debt nation. There's going to be a few of those. But I mean, the balance is fine. And the interest is 8.9. Okay, that's actually a bit painful. Over 10, but still over 10% of expenses being interest. It's not like catastrophic. The wages are all the way down, and they're spending. I mean, if they didn't construct, they would be still gaining 50k per month. And they have almost, like, okay, not almost the same construction as Persia, but pretty close, all things considered. And they have like 1/4 of the population as well. Well, 1/3. So I mean, that is not the biggest problem. Like, of course, if they start a war, which might be a bit of a risk with the current Belgian leadership, there's going to be a problem. But at the same time, if they start war, then what? Like, Belgium has 200 battalions, but it's not really going to be a huge deal. Yeah, also, France claims the entirety of Belgium. Netherlands do as well, but that's from the start of the game pretty much. Yeah, they do have quite significant overseas investments. Quite a bit of it is in Dutch East Indies, apparently, in Belgian Congo, which doesn't matter that much in Byzantium, because Byzantium allowed pretty much everyone to invest in them. So it's going to be interesting to look at their nation. And that's pretty much all important ones. A bit in Netherlands as well. What I will be checking with this, I think it's interesting how much of the percentage the capitalists are with those huge investment nations, and they're in Belgium then 1.5%, which is actually quite a bit. And their investment pool is over 100k, which I think is not bad. Seems like the companies are doing pretty well as well. Oh, that's a really good one. Tools, steel, and machines. Oh my god, that's like perfect one. Yeah, there's like this company. This is specific to Wallonia, if I recall, and plus 10% railway building throughput, which is really good as well. This company like could be enough reason to invade Belgium for any of their neighbors, because it's really, really good. And the best part about it is good at any point in the game. Because, for example, I mean, this company is really good as well. But at this point, every logging camp is built and is probably bought by someone. And like logging camps are not even that beneficial at this point of the game. So getting this company, like, even you can see they don't have that many buildings. That's because they cannot buy that many new buildings of those types. And those are going to be built always. There's going to be always new tool and steel and engines workshops. This is pretty nice as well. This one is generic, I think, but glassworks and furniture are pretty nice. They're part of the German power block, and this is like the nice thing about the German power blocks is they have finished principles. They are not as strong as in vanilla, but still like military industry really good. Advanced research not as good. Heavily nerfed, still pretty decent. internal trade, plus 10% company throughput bonus, that's really nice. Tariffs might not be ideal, but 10% infrastructure, convoys. Yeah, Belgium does have a bit of a colonial empire over here. Technology, probably pretty decent. They don't have radio still, which is surprising, though on the other hand, they probably cannot really start radio production unless they have already a lot of electric industries, simply because I assume everyone is employed in Belgium. That probably includes the colonies. Belgium did release colonies as separate nations. I'm not sure if that's the best way to go about things, to be honest. Like, I started incorporating those places very, very slowly. I'm not even sure if I will get it done, but it's starting to give me some bonuses. But even if I didn't start incorporating them, I think it would be more beneficial. Oh, maybe the AI released them. That's true. Though I think the player did say that they might be releasing them anyways. The one good thing is a lot of Belgian population is loyalist. They do have very high legitimacy, which is pretty nice. And I will look at the market when I get to North German Federation, because Belgium is not really that relevant part of that. And their GDP per capita is surprisingly low, and you have to remember, this is just those two states. The colonies have no effect on the GDP per capita, so honestly, I mean, that's pretty surprising. I would really expect, like, Belgium, East Africa, of course, colonies are going to have pretty strange GDPs per capita, usually. Just look at Dutch East Indies. What the hell is this? I have no idea how that happens. What? 8 pounds? Like, almost 1.5 pounds more than second place? And they have legit economy, not just gold? How did that happen? Simon says, it's generally quite good to have colonial admins, in my opinion. Yeah, but if I didn't read that, then people wouldn't know. And they would just keep my opinion, and they would have to accept it as a fact, because there would be no opposition. I'm not sure. I think I just prefer to have everything controlled manually, because AI is just... I just hate AI, and like, if you want to change any of their laws, you're going to be doing stupid stuff. I just hate the AI subjects. Yeah, there was something... yeah, I didn't finish looking at tech. But still, production is pretty good, almost starting on the final era, so just barely a few techs left. Surprisingly, so Belgium was the first one to rush chemical warfare, but right now, I'm pretty sure most, like the most advanced nations have more of those techs in here. So Belgium, I think, is behind on tech, and military tech right now, interestingly enough. And society, yeah, just finishing. I think within like 5 to 10 years, a lot of people will have finished the all tech tree. I mean, overall, so Belgium, one of the most disappointing things about Belgium is their pretty low GDP per capita, which I'm not sure how that happens, especially with the godlike company as well. Where's their headquarters? 60 levels, that's actually not that much as I thought. They do have a good amount of foreign investments, and they still do have like fairly significant colonial empire. Even though that is a slight problem, though, as I said, not the biggest one. I think Belgium goes into fine B. Like, pretty good. Some problems, but also some good stuff as well. So let's keep going. Of course, we're going really slowly, as always. It's been like 40 minutes and they've done 3 nations, god damn it. Need to be here all night. USA. Actually, I'm not sure what the current position of USA is, so it's going to be interesting to take a look. Let's take a look-see. No debt, so good. 5,000 construction, which is more construction than Russia even. They had like 4 or something, if I recall. Yeah, 4,400. Third biggest GDP in the game. slightly behind France. The population is growing quite fast. It's probably not showing over here because they're getting mass migrations, I assume. They were one of the first places to get multiculturalism. Yeah, you have 5 ongoing mass migrations, which is pretty significant for their population. It's hard to just eyeball how much they're gaining. Good amount of loyalists, very good literacy. Number 9. Oh, Belgium has really good literacy as well. Okay, everything looking pretty good here. Not the best legitimacy, but it's not the end of the world as well. Presidential Republic, universal suffrage, multiculturalism, mass conscription, really good. Secret police. Not many people with National Guard so far. Proportional taxation, laissez-faire, free trade, protected speech, really good for tech, though. Like with how the mod changed the spread, I don't think like for the advanced nations this is really necessary. That might be a bit of an RP as well. Good institutions, colonial exploitation. Is it going down? It is all the way down already, so pretty nice. Actually, America wasn't doing that much colonization in the first place. Migration controls, women's suffrage. Yeah, pretty good. I wonder if there's going to be anyone who actually gains more from graduated taxation. So far, not really. Almost 4 million in national revenue, which is pretty nice. Of course, almost no authority, which is to be expected. The presidential is pretty nice, and that gives you at least 100. No interest rate, like actually. Yeah, they could go even higher on the construction if they really wanted to, but maybe they are running into problems with raw goods as well. Probably a good time to look a bit in the market. I think they're one of the biggest producers of radios. Yeah, along with Great Britain, which is really important because radios are very important for warfare. Max taxes and no radicals, and pretty high legitimacy as well. Okay, that's pretty big. Though the question is, I think they set it up quite a bit ago. It almost seems crazy. They have some problems with market access actually. I don't think they set it up too long ago. Because there's a lot of people with below minimum expected standard of living for this ratio of radicals to loyalists. But maybe I'm wrong. Low government wages, normal military. Yeah, but back to... Oh, okay, just a bit of a lag. Radios are still expensive in the United States, despite being one of the biggest producers. They're just exporting so much. And pop consumption is... Like, honestly, pop consumption of radios is a bit of a problem. I think for a lot of nations as well. They're buying from the Dutch market. Oh, wait, what? No, they're selling to the Dutch market. And Austrian. And I assume probably I'm selling to other people. Because no way I need that many radios. Hardwood, that's probably something they could adjust by just changing production methods, but it's also not really that important. Importing a ton of glass, mostly from Spain. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so before, Americans used to be the biggest seller of glass to Grand Columbia, but they probably increased their construction so much that the prices went way up. Really good prices of engines and cars. They are actually a huge producer of engines. And they're trading out almost 10k units. Oh my god. 6k to Britain, who is the biggest producer as well. No, Britain is almost not producing any engines on their own. Okay, so that's interesting. So United States are supporting Britain with their engines, which is very important trade good. There is a slight increase in price of iron for United States. They are importing and exporting a ton. They're the second biggest producer. But okay, maybe next session we're going to start running into problems with raw resources, but at the same time, there's not that many people left to employ. Maybe for United States, they're actually 4 million. That's a lot of people to employ. But it's not going to be taking that long with this much construction. Yeah, I mean, this is looking really good. They do have their own power block, which is decently developed. Union. They don't have that many members. So only player is Mexico. They have this Peru, Bolivia, and Argentina. So the power block when it comes to scope, not that impressive. They do have some colonies in Africa, just a bit here and there. This is... oof. The Belgian colonies in general are creating a lot of very strange borders all over the place. Oh, some rough borders. Their companies. Oh, this one, Standard Oil, really, really good. I wonder if they actually built that many railways. Yeah, because depending on how the AI does its actions, that could be really good or bad. Because usually they don't really like to buy railways that much. I think United States might be getting into a huge increase within like the next session. Their navy is nowhere near the biggest ones, which is pretty important. Their army is also not particularly impressive. So militarily they're kind of weak, but also... I normally would say United States are on their own continent, but in Victoria 3 that's not how it works. You can invade United States very easily as long as you have bigger army and bigger navy. So it is a bit of a problem for them, I think, that they're... like militarily they're on the level of Netherlands. Which is not a great position to be as an actual great power. And they do have their bloc expanding into Japan, which, I mean, it's going to be a pretty good boost. Assume... does America have... investment agreement? Yeah, they do have investment agreement in Mexico, so they will be able to spend a lot of their money. They own vast majority of their GDP. They own a good amount in Mexico. Not that much in other places. But yeah, I mean, they did retake their quote-unquote national borders. They did take some colonies in Africa. They do have some members of their power bloc in South Africa, but I think in general, not that impressed yet. Of course, their economy is good, their tech is good, but their military is not great. I think United States have a defensive treaty with Russia, so nobody should be invading their homeland. Sure, but on their own, like, if they wanted to get in someplace, like they wanted to take Tripolitania from Italy, and that would have been actually eventually possible, but that would be way more difficult for them than it should be. They would have to build up their army first. And they still have trench infantry as well. Did I look at their tech? I don't think so. They're almost finished with production, which is a huge boon to their GDP, but that means it's not going to be growing that much. It's like they're reaching the limit of how much technology can take you. They're getting squad infantry, though remember in the mod the upgrades for military are just way slower, so you need to do it quite a bit ahead of time, which is pretty important to remember. Yeah, but they only have chemical warfare and only now getting NCOs. So that's, I mean, good, but I would expect a bit more from United States and finishing this as well. I think for now they go into B, but I think they have huge potential still. Especially in migration, which is hard to evaluate exactly. And let's keep going. We're getting some of the great powers out, so everything else is going to be a bit quicker. Austria. Let's see. Austria is a bit of a... They were going for a bit of a autarky vibe. Of course, they're trading with everyone still, but they're trying to just do everything on their own. They have more radicals than loyalists, which is, I think, the first nation so far. They do have pretty good legitimacy, normal taxes, good authority, a lot of bureaucracy. Though I guess they do have a huge population. Normal wages all over the place. Unrealized taxes, that's not ideal. With such a huge amount of bureaucracy, how does that happen? Oh, that's probably... No. It's not the, like, expensive taste or something like this, the trade. Oh, bots. Oh, that's... Yeah, almost misclicked and banned someone else, but it's fine. Okay, so basically not that, making money, not that much construction. 1000, that's double what Persia has, which you don't want to have double what Persia has as Austria. They did get quite ahead of Dutch East Indies, though they have, like, Dutch East Indies have 20% of Austria's population, so saying that Austria is ahead in GDP than Dutch East Indies is not a huge achievement exactly. They do have good literacy, which is pretty important. Monarchy, wealth voting is probably the only player nation with this, though I might be wrong. Interesting that they happen to have wealth voting in particular. Maybe... I mean... I don't like the 20% legitimacy from ideological incompatibility, but maybe that's not the worst, like, resting point when you want to have a playthrough with a bit more authority. If South German Federation is below S tier, I'll definitely the Dutch. I mean, you and what navy? Oh well, nice hat. But back to Austria. Mercantilism still... I assume most people just, didn't really bother to switch it. And I think it would be worth it, especially when we're trading this much. You can set up tariffs manually, I think, but... I think there's just better production method. Does it employ less people? It actually employs significantly less people. 200 per trade center. This could get up into decent numbers. Yeah, trade agreements help with tariffs, but I just mean that mostly about the production method. Free trade is nice for the trade competitiveness, which I think is actually pretty important. Not sure how it works exactly, but I assume like it gets relevant when people are trading with each other this much. National supremacy, which I assume means... actually, okay, so most people are second-class citizens, which might not be the worst thing, because, yeah, you do get minus 10% wage, but your buildings are going to be making this much money, which means there's going to be more going into the investment pool. 454, that doesn't seem too bad, though actually I didn't check what United States and Russia have, which is probably the nation that I should be comparing Austria to. Yeah, the United States have double what Austria has. I mean, yeah, Austria can do a lot of land trading. That's true. And land trading is pretty good in the mod. But yeah, over like ports, they really don't have that many. First of all, they don't have that many good provinces on the coast, and even though they do have, actually all of those are actually not bad. Sometimes, like if you keep Montenegro, that's not a good place to be building ports. Russia has investment pool 1.3 million. So yeah, Austria, which I think might be a result of them just not having that much construction. Not that much construction means not that many buildings, which leads to not that much reinvestments. They have a lot of peasants left. They didn't have any investment agreements, which I think at this point is really biting them hard. Like, France has more than double their GDP, and sure, they own 60% of it, but there are things you benefit from buildings even when you don't, your pops don't own them. Yeah, I mean, it's 1895, so at this point, the question is, will Austria even be able to employ of the pops? And sure, they have huge population growth, probably like percentage-wise, it may be the biggest population growth in the game currently because they're pretty much in the sweet spot for standards of living. It is slightly adjusted in the mod as well, so like I think 14 is when it starts going down. And the question is, can Austria really do anything till the end of the game? I mean, they are stronger than North German Federation at least, with like GDP and population, which is pretty important for them. They have a slightly bigger army than Italy. I'm surprised they even have that many flotillas. Are they fully manned? Yeah. This is actually not too bad for those states. 144 ships, number 7. Yeah, you wouldn't really expect Austria to be rivaling Italy in navy, and yet they do, so that's pretty good. Yeah, this I looked through the markets. Not really, yeah, they don't have any of their own radios. Actually, let's look at technology first. They cannot build their own radios. Pretty much at the Russian level when it comes to production. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 techs this or that way. Not that great in military as well. These machine gunners are pretty important, and they don't really have access to chemical warfare, NCO training. Yeah, they do have good literacy, but not the best. And I assume they don't have protected speech. Yeah, they do have censorship actually, which is going to slow them down. They don't have any rights of women, but they have so many peasants, it's not really an issue. No child labor, which is another thing hurting their literacy. Yeah, I think they are focusing military tech at least, but yeah, they need to hurry up. I get the feeling there might be some wars soon happening, and I don't think they are really that prepared for anything. Society a bit behind as well, the other great powers. When you look at the world map, so they did gain some territories from the Ottomans, not that much, they lost their half of Moldavia. They did prevent the German unification, which I guess is also a win for Russia, but for Austria it's... No, I mean, is it a win for Austria? Depends on what the relations are, because Germany can be a good friend for Austria as well. But they haven't been really... I mean, they almost got partitioned last session, if I recall. It was only because they managed to secure a deal with Russia that they prevented this. But they did keep Lombardia and Venetia, which are really good states. This is 7%. You include those, and 8% of their GDP in those few states, and probably like all of their sulfur. Though they do have Wallachia, which is a bit as well. They are producing a good amount of oil, at least for like European nation. Nominate Austria for Sick Man of our Europe, of course. Well, probably should have expected this one as well. Do I put Austria into A or B? Keeping Italy is actually not that easy, because there's like having a player whose entire purpose in life is get 2 of your states, at least 2 of your states, and like every session they're looking for an opportunity. This is a pretty tough position to be in for anyone. Yeah, I said that they kept those holdings because they had made a deal with Russia, which also prevented the entire collapse of the Austrian Empire. I mean, the nominees are not explained because they are whatever you want them to be. I think Austria goes into B. Their position is not bad, and they still do have good position. They're in good position to grow. Though I'm not sure how much they will be able to really use that, considering they have only 1000 construction and no investment agreements. But barely avoiding being destroyed last session by someone else saving you. It's not the greatest position, not the great power material, I don't think. I put them in B, right? Correct. So let's keep going. Yeah, but Austria has 1000 construction, meanwhile United States have 5000, and Russia has 4000. Yeah, you can, but you didn't yet, so... Yeah... I'm talking with the Austrian player, who says that they had very high GDP growth this session, and they can expand their construction, which is of course true. And it might happen, but that's not now. North German Federation means we are pretty much leaving the great powers lists. For now, at least. I don't think... They are technically speaking great power. I think they're not like the others. There's a secession going on of Danish people. Okay. That's insignificant. A bit of a debt, but not... Oh, okay, wait, actually... They have debt even if they don't construct anything. Which is a bit of a bigger problem with high taxes as well. And they do have very high military wages for some reason, which would reverse that balance. What are they spending this much money on? Government... Oh, they have a lot of bureaucracy in excess. Only 40% of excess in bureaucracy. And of course they're spending a lot on military, but that's typical German, I think. That's not ideal budget spending, I don't think. Diplopacts. There's apparently a Diplopact. They're bankrolling Belgium, of course. And if they weren't bankrolling Belgium, they would be actually making money without construction. And even with construction, it would be much better. Right. They're also spending a lot on subsidies, including arts academies and tooling workshops. Which might be a remaining of something else. They're going for democracy, they have national supremacy, which I assume is not really a problem. Yeah, that should be fine. But of course, they do have National Guard, which is probably going to be quite helpful for them, to be honest. Probably a good choice for them. Interventionism, so no laissez-faire protectionism, per capita taxation. Proportional taxation would help them quite a bit, though it wouldn't be easy to pass. Maybe once wealth voting goes, with some rearrangement of cloud. Institutions outlawed dissent with... Okay, that's unexpected. Property to women. I assume they don't have peasants, really. Yeah, pretty much none. They don't have any colonies, I don't believe, anywhere. Yeah, there are some issues, for sure. Let's look at technology. Okay, production technology is looking fine. Military a bit behind, but not in a terrible place. I think prioritizing squad infantry at this point, just to make sure everything else you can just catch up on really quickly. But squad infantry... I mean, maybe at this point better to rush straight for mechanized. Though you would need to have the whole setup for tank production and so on for that. Like, mechanized infantry also requires tanks, right? Yeah, they do. And society, okay. I mean, they're doing okay on tech, though I think, especially Germany, on the other hand, can they afford to really man their military? Let's look at their market. Fine arts are being a problem. Do they have an obsession with fine arts as well? No, they just like them. Okay, sure. Radios are a problem. Because they have so much government administrations, I guess. Okay. Opium, yeah, they have to import everything. They're importing a ton of cars. Germany importing cars. That's unfortunate to see. Not that much investment. This is, I think, as much as Persia has. And 400 construction. They do have, I mean, still decent GDP that's out of top 10 as well. I mean, no critical goods, maybe other than ironclads. Though actually, telephones are probably costing them quite a bit of money because they are using them so much they have so much bureaucracy and it has pretty high price. That's something of a priority, I think. They're building power plants right now. And I mean, power plants are really important. They are building some electric industries, so at least they are aware. Okay, price on steel, raw goods, no problem really. No problem with oil. They are importing a ton though. From Austria, Russia, more from Austria. It looks like most of the Austrian oil is going to the German market, which includes Scandinavia as well. They're probably, I think, one of the major producers of tools. Still importing 3,000. Who is it? Mexico? That's Mexico, not really. Austria. Looks like Austria is like the world's main producer of tools. At least main producer for export. Maybe some other great powers are using them locally. But Austria seems to be like very important for tools production. And the German market doesn't look too bad, frankly. The munitions prices might be tad worrying. Yeah, I think Germany is in a rough spot, but I think they're especially in a rough spot if it comes to a war relatively soon. Which, considering Belgium won't be able to support them, Belgium has such a big debt, even with support from Germany in money. That's not ideal as well. And yeah, of course, geopolitically they didn't unite. And they didn't really do anything outside of Europe. So I think they have to go into sea. It's not a tragedy yet, but I could see Germany come back and also fall all the way down. It could get rough. They also have strike right now, that's... I'm not sure, what's the current effects of strike? Where is it happening? Maybe it's off? I guess it's not happening anywhere. Yeah, they're pretty much a regional GP. And they do have they do lead a decent power block still, at least. So they have sovereign German Federation. It's not like they seceded from German market as well. And they did get Belgium and Scandinavia in. So it's not like they have no successes when it comes to geopolitics. But that they have a lot of problems. Like, at this point, they're more of a buffer state between France, Russia, and British Republic. Which, I mean, British Republic is not part of this, but you know what I mean. Like, between and Austria, I guess, is keeping buffer state in the central of Europe. So yeah, let's keep it going. See the roulette. Still so many left, oh my god. Might be one of the good tier lists. Cuba, I think Cuba is still being played. Let's see what how they're doing. They did gain Jamaica from Spain, so they did expand tiny little bit. 25% of the 2 million people living in Jamaica. Apparently Cuba has by far the largest amount of investment pools stored, which seems to be the case indeed. They do have 136 every week, and they have probably run out of peasants to employ decades ago. Yep, they do have 148 construction, which is not bad. I mean, if I were them, I would be just aggressively looking for more investment agreements. But they don't have any, which is too bad. I mean, they are colonies, so they cannot actually have. They would need to become a dominion to be able to have investment agreements. Which is too bad. They are going for census suffrage, racial segregation, which doesn't really affect them. No, the vast majority of their people are, I assume, Spanish? Or at least fully accepted. Oh, their primary culture is Caribeno, which is... Oh yeah, it's basically Hispanophobe and European heritage. I wonder if they have two primary cultures, but apparently not. Good amount of loyalists. Not that legitimate government, but they are changing voting laws, so that might change. State religion still National Guard, though military is pretty much non-existent. Religious charity schools, legacy slavery in America, and apparently everyone is cool with that. Okay. Interventionism, so they don't even have laissez-faire and they have so much investments. A promotional taxation could give them a bit more money, but actually it wouldn't be that much of a difference. No legal guardianship debt. Yeah, they should have. That would help them with increasing their GDP. They still have number 4 GDP per capita, so actually it's not like they're doing badly in that department. They have 82 education with level 1 education institution, which is pretty impressive. I assume it's because of, yeah, they have all kinds of edicts all over the place. Pretty much everything. And they still have excess authority. You could slap some consumption taxes. Though it's not like they really need money. They, like, Cuba at this point is just, they finished doing what they were doing on those 2 islands. And I think they've just been missing something else to really do. They're actually not doing that well on tech, which is surprising considering their literacy. They don't have any universities, so right. Just now getting... I mean, military doesn't matter for them at all, to be honest. Though they do have 10 million population. In theory, if they recruited all of their conscripts, 80, so they could easily get like 100 battalions. But they are so behind in tech, it doesn't really matter that much. They're behind on society as well. I'm kind of surprised that they're this far behind. Like, even if you just start the education edicts at the start of the game, you can get pretty decent literacy quite quickly. And yeah, they're still subject of Spain. I mean, I think Spain goes into B, though it's hard to judge them really, because like, what would you expect from Cuba that stays dependent on Spain to really do more than this? I at least would expect if they could have done some more interesting stuff with investments all over the place if they became a dominion, I suppose. Trying to maybe become a bit more independent, gain some more islands in the Caribbean. If they could try to buy stuff from Great Britain. Maybe, possibly. So yeah, they go into B, but it's difficult to judge such a minor nation and a subject at that. So some players are just not planning on becoming independent, so like, can you blame them when they're on staying a subject when they're not even trying to stop being a subject? But yeah, not particularly impressed. But also nothing particularly wrong with Cuba. Mexico, okay, this one is going to be interesting. This one I really want to see. Okay, okay. It's interesting that they're in their own market, not part of the American market, which I think they are going for market unification. And it's going to happen in 4 years. And that might lead to some strange results on the Mexican trade. But before we do that, let's look at their technology, because that's relevant. They're about to get radios. Not too bad on production. Good literacy. Military, not too bad behind, but South America and like generally America under the United States is suffering a ton from weak military usually. Not great, but also not too bad. For Mexico, it might be actually kind of difficult usually to get higher literacy because they cannot really depend on edicts. They have so many states, they have to get a good institution. And they do have their laws actually. Private health insurance, that's unusual. More taxation. Still would be making more money with graduated. Free trade, transfer, protected speech. Poor laws. I mean, all of this is looking quite nicely. I'm wondering how worth it is to go for workplace safety office to the max, because in theory it increases your population growth, right? Because it decreases mortality. But how worth is it? I mean, 600, they could just do it for free at this point. Third largest GDP in America, Byzantic is not impressed. I mean, they do have higher GDP than Chile and Gran Colombia, but they have about the same population as Chile, and I assume they've been getting more migration because they just start in a bigger market from the beginning. I mean, yeah, they have good GDP per capita, but that's probably like the one thing they have going for them. So, I mean, B is not bad. It's just not. It's not like really interesting, as in they were just doing their own thing in here. Too bad. I really would want the subjects to be able to invest in the overlords. At least get an option to, if the overlords allows it. But Joacho said no, because he hates fun, so... but yeah, now let's get to the interesting stuff. Radios are pretty much not happening in Mexico. The Mexican market is still in that small enough phase that a lot of prices are pretty high, but that's because the number of goods is very low, which is surprising to me considering how much they trade with everyone. So over here, they're importing 3,000 engines and they're exporting 500. Look, they're exporting those engines to everyone. Oh my god. Let's look at trade routes actually. Oh my god, oh my god. The game is lagging so much. There's so many trade routes. They're importing 10k units of tools, exporting 8k. They're importing and exporting almost the same amounts of everything. Okay, they're exporting more dies. They're importing a bit more glass, but look at those numbers. Explosives the same, they're importing the same as they're exporting. Iron the same. Oil, they're exporting a bit more. Fruit export, just trading. They're not getting anything on themselves. Wood the same. Fabric, they're importing a bit more. But opium, the exact same thing. They're importing just as much as they're exporting. Fish, the same. Sugar, pretty close. Liquor, they're importing more. Mexicans, of course. Steel, importing more. Groceries, exporting. Tobacco, just trading. Paper, just trading. Oh my god. Ammunition, just trading. How many convoys do they have? They have 80,000 convoys. How much is it compared to America? They have almost the same amount of convoys as America, but I guess they just have so many trade routes, but the numbers are just not as significant. Because in theory, America is trading more just by judging by the amount of convoys they're using. Yeah, like they have trade routes that are just 14,000 units of tools. 20,000 units of grain. Where are they exporting grain to? Austria, France, Mexico, of course. How many convoys does France have, for example? Yeah, Mexico has basically the same amount of convoys as France. Okay, Simon sent me something about Mexico, but I'm just going to check it in a second because I wanted to see. They have 2.3% of their population being capitalists, which is significantly more than Belgium. They have 100k reinvestments, and trade centers are 4k, which is actually for trade centers, this is pretty impressive because trade centers are terrible in reinvestments. But for this, I wouldn't be surprised if some great powers had less reinvestments from trade centers. They are getting Japan pretty soon as well. They did conquer most of the Central America as well. They didn't keep anything in the north, but they did expand a little bit over here. And they have slight debt. And they also have some problems with influence because they have so many trade agreements. And no rivals, I assume. And no, they actually have rivalry with Byzantium, Belgium, and Canada, and still have problems. Though a bit is talent modifier. So many trade agreements. They have trade agreements with probably every player and more. Wow. Well, Mexico has to go into A. Well, no other way about it. And yeah, so actually Mexico has the third biggest amount of convoy. The first one being United States, and then they have almost the same amount of convoys as Britain. Wild. But also based, which also explains why their GDP is not that high. Because a lot of trading doesn't give you GDP because you're not actually producing anything. Let's see how many trade centers do they have. Trade centers, I think they're over here. 2,600. There's almost 1 million people employed in trade, which, considering there's actually 6 million people employed, like 20% of the employment population is working just in trade. And not to mention, there's also like significant part of people being employed in ports, for example. 162. Yeah, that's also going to be a few 100,000. And then this causes urban centers. I think though trade centers increase urbanization, they do, which means more people employed in urban centers instead of doing anything else. So yeah, probably like 30% of the population, working population in Mexico is just doing trade. And they probably are not really... Yeah, that's one thing I don't really like. Actually, there's a few things I don't like in trade in Victoria Free, but one of those is they are not really benefiting from it in any way. Like if you just import and then export the same amount of goods, you gain a minuscule amount, which is probably never going to be the same as if you just employed those people in buildings that actually produce stuff, which is a bit sad, to be honest. Now I'm ending on a sad note, which is unfortunate, but that's Victoria Free for you. Sometimes you just cannot get too excited because the game mechanics are just not good for being excited. They get 4,000 from trade centers in reinvestments, which is actually, I think, pretty significant. Spain is going to be interesting. I have no clue what the current situation in Spain really is. And they do have huge reinvestments because they are investing in China. They are a great power. We have a lot of great powers, actually. 9 great powers, which is above what you usually would have. Yeah, I mean, everyone who should be a great power is. We have, I mean, even more. Netherlands and Spain, even Italy are not always great powers. And North German Federation, normally there is Germany, but North German Federation wouldn't always be a great power. Yeah, so even with people pumping prestige, apparently, people are still staying in the great power status. Note that GDP number 8, which is significantly below Austria, but then again, you wouldn't really expect Spain to be up there. They do have more than South German Federation, which is fairly impressive, actually. South German Federation has really good GDP per capita. No debt, which is really nice. A decent amount of loyalists. 35 million is not that many, but they do have more than Italy, at least. Yeah, Spain and Italy are in this kind of like minor great powers category. They just don't have really the population to compete with the big boys. I guess, yeah, North German Federation goes into the same category, but they also have one advantage in their power block, which I don't think, yeah, neither Spain nor Italy really have their own power block. They are losing, but they probably can just increase wages, I assume. Yeah. Though they already have government wages, they will probably need to build a bit more navy or something. Yeah, they definitely could build more navy. And if they just double the navy, they're probably going to be good on prestige. They have quite a bit of reinvestments for their position though, because they have a lot of ownership in other places. Like they have only 91% of their GDP, but that's their GDP, which is 159 million. 10% of GDP in France, 3% in Heavenly Kingdom. Is this really true? Oh damn, they have a lot of buildings in China, I guess. That's interesting. Also a good amount in Japan. Of course, they still control Philippines. Yeah, they still have defensive pact with Portugal. Portugal have been pretty much untouched this campaign. Just look at their politics. Okay, legitimacy. Not bad, not terrible. Wealth voting. Okay, so there's 2 nations with voting. Didn't change state religion. No home affairs. I think secret police can be decent. This minus 5% political movement activism can be useful in certain situations, and also slowing down. I mean, slowing down secessions is good and bad, because sometimes you just want them to fire ASAP and just be done with it. They have professional army, which at this point, mass conscription, I think, is definitely the better option. Proportional taxation. They still wouldn't be making more money with graduated. No colonial affairs institution. Okay. They're moving to protected speech. They have okay literacy. They have women's suffrage, compulsory primary school, all really nice. Are they like behind on tech? Looks okay on production. Slightly behind on military. Yeah, this is a bit behind. Doing okay on society. The thing is, with switching from censorship to protected speech and getting this technology spread boost is, even with them being slightly behind, they're still getting tax from spreading within a few, I think like 1 or 2 years. So, do they really need to switch? Might be part of RP as well. Now let's look at the Spanish market. Radios are a problem, though they are building a good amount themselves. It's the population consumption, the greedy population eating all of the radios. And groceries, they're actually exporting a ton, and they still have high price. Interesting. Ironclads. Who's the biggest producer of ironclads? Great Britain. Doing almost, actually more than the next 2 nations combined. interesting. That means they have to be exporting. Steel is slightly expensive, but it's not really a problem. Engines have really good price. I think it's half of them are imported from France. Yeah, France is a massive producer of engine, and they're still exporting some. Oh yeah, to like China to make them more friendly, of course. I mean, this market looks pretty decent. They are getting almost all of their oil from Russia. Also some from America, more from Russia. Yeah, they're using a lot of oil and they don't have that much themselves, unfortunately. Opium... Do they really have no place to get their own opium? And they could get slightly more, but... yeah. Opium can be a bit of a problem good to get, because it actually doesn't grow in that many places, comparatively. They have almost no sulfur. I mean, they could get more of their own, they just don't need to. I mean, the price is good, so... This is one of the things, there's just such a massive capacity for raw resources still in a lot of places. Very surprising to me. Actually, let's compare how much reinvestments does Spain get from trade centers. 8k, which is double what Mexico has. How many buildings do they have? I'm surprised they have that much more than Mexico with... Yeah, I think just Mexico is not making that many beneficial trades. The trade is a bit adjusted in mod, which in a way that means that the trade routes will go to a higher level even when it's not that beneficial for them to do. So they're maximizing the amount of goods being traded over actually making money, which is one thing that might be biting Mexico in the ass, actually. Spain looks like the first S-tier candidate, considering their standing position, their economy is really good, and they have two strong services and a good enclave in Africa. Actually, I was thinking about the same thing, but more about that in a second. I want to check. Their military is not the greatest in numbers. They have 1000 construction, which is the same as Austria, which I should tell you that Austria is should be probably getting a bit more. But yeah, outside of their internal stuff, they did expand slightly bit to North Africa. They did manage to get a solid colony over here with very high population as well. Those are some states with massive population. Like, I think at this point, like half of the Spanish population is there, and you can see even on the population density map mode. Over here and Ethiopia and maybe like North Africa are the places with the biggest population. So they got, even though this doesn't look like a big part, it's a huge chunk of African population. And they still control Philippines with, of course, the bits they just got, and Siam as well. So their colonial empire is pretty solid, I think. They didn't get anything going in South America. They tried for a bit, but yeah. What else was I going to say? So their economy is really good for their position. I'm a bit worried about their military, both army and navy. I think they're a bit behind in technology, and also the numbers are not looking too good, but they do have money, so it's not like they cannot expand their... Actually, they're not building right now. They don't have any government building, so they're making money, but if they actually started building anything... So even their just investment pool is managing almost 1,000 construction on its own, which is pretty decent. Apparently their monarchy is really pretty, which depends on your taste, I suppose. Next guy is going to be from Catholic Church and Traditionalist. I think he's going to feel right at home in this well-voting... Actually, yeah, he will feel right at home. Well-voting state religion monarchy. And yeah, they actually have more influence in Asia because of their investments. Yeah, I think Spain goes into S. Though I'm a bit worried if they will be able to maintain this position. They do have some good defensive alliances, so I guess they're not really in a position. They have good relations with France, which is their only land border in Europe. And they didn't get Portugal, but they also kept them, which was, I think, one of their goals. Nobody else really had an opportunity to take, including the colonies, which is pretty surprising, to be honest. So yeah, let's keep going. I think I need to speed up things a little bit, which is too bad because we still have at least Great Britain to talk about, and that's going to be taking a while. So, German Federation. So finally a nation that can just almost skip over, not really talk that much. So let's look at those guys. It's another of those min-maxing GDP per capita nations. Number 2. Right behind Dutch is Indies, but let's be honest, that's a tough nation to overtake in GDP per capita. No debt to speak of, universal suffrage, multiculturalism. They might be getting some immigrations. Agrarianism, which is interesting, but I think agrarianism is not too bad because of that 30% government dividend sufficiency, but at this point, like, laissez-faire is just better, I think. Good institutions, protected speech, women's suffrage compulsory, nothing missing here really. All institutions, all the way to max. Apparently the player doesn't play at all in single player, so that's also interesting. Almost 1,000 construction as well. I think they've got a good amount of reinvestments in France and North Germany. Not that much, to be honest. Surprisingly, and though they don't have any ports, which is limiting their access to investment agreements in other places. Technology almost finished here. Not the best military, but that's not really their thing. Yeah, really doing good on technology. I mean, they became basically like turbo-powered Switzerland. Even though they're not really neutral, I suppose. But their military is not that impressive. They do have... Actually, one thing they do have is a lot of money and a lot of credit. So they're probably... Because Scandinavia doesn't have that much GDP, they're probably the only nation in Sovereign that can send some finance to somebody. So maybe with their support, North Germany could try to fund a decent army. If South Germany was sending their cash their way, possibly. They have almost 500 reinvestment as well, which means they don't need to be constructing anything on their own. They could have much more construction as well.
I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it.
I'm not sure what Tommy is doing, but... Oh yeah, and he's gone. Yeah, but I mean, I guess they still exist in 1895. Not really because they tried to really fight for their independence, it's just more people wanted to prevent North Germany gaining anything else. It's because even if North Germany got all of this, they wouldn't be able to form Germany. They need either Alsace-Lorraine or like Bohemia or Tyrol. Anything else would be possible, but would look really ugly, so I hope they don't go for anything else. South German Federation for Victoria Victory in the movies. Let's look at that. I'm using Bavaria flag because I think that like their flag would be too close to Belgium. I mean, I guess it's the other way, so it's the same thing with France and Netherlands. But I'm not really used to their flag, so I'm just using the Bavarian. Also, the Bavarian flag was one I had already downloaded, so... I guess they will go into A... I suppose? Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I mean, if we assume it's starting as Bavaria, even just getting this stuff is pretty good. If they united Germany as Bavaria, they would go into S. That's a pretty tough call. They still could do it, technically speaking. And Byzantium, that's... Yeah, they're getting investments from everyone, so that's going to be an interesting nation. Too bad there's someone left. Oh my god, we have too many players. We need to kill someone. Anyone. Let's look at Byzantium. Note that decent GDP, decent population. They're slightly behind in GDP, especially from Spain, but also from Italy, also from North German Federation. Not that far behind, and their population is decent. They could try to like challenge those places, though. How many peasants do they still have? Not that many, actually. 1 million. They have investment agreements with a lot of people, half the world basically. And they do control only 50% of their GDP, but at the same time, they own 25% of worth of their GDP in Persia. And if they start getting a lot of oil in Persia, then that might be some good deals. Really good legitimacy. Technocracy, multiculturalism, state religion. This is interesting combination. Public health insurance, religious schools, because they have state religion, so they can't switch out of it. Proportional taxation, which is pretty decent. Mercantilism. Wouldn't it be that easy to switch out of it, to be honest? I mean, it wouldn't be difficult, but it would be just maybe more annoying than worth. Child labor and legal guardianship, which are both not ideal, but their church is really strong, actually. They are leader of a trade league, which is something to be said. I mean, in this campaign we didn't have Ottomans and we had Greece, so it was to a certain extent expected that Greece would replace Ottomans. Though they did definitely gain more directly for themselves. Like Iraq, at least most of Iraq, is not really where you'd expect Greece to be expanding, and they do control most of Arabia as well. Even Maldives, I think, are their protectorate. Or I guess they've been freed. Or maybe they just joined the power bloc. And yeah, they do control southern Serbia, all of Asia Minor. Cyprus is their player vassal, which I is... Oh, actually, no, they annexed Cyprus, so I guess they're no longer being played. Let's look at the market once again over here. Yeah, engines are a bit painful, especially when there's pretty significant amounts that they need. They will need to be producing quite a bit more. Oh yeah, the plantations. The plantations are a real problem for engines because you need so many of them. And of course, opium is really good, so you want it. Everyone wants to trade opium with you. So obviously you get it, but they're exporting 9,000 when they are building 14. To Russia, Mexico, of course, Spain, Dutch, American, North Germany, a little bit to North Germany. Yeah, opium is pretty much the thing that describes the market the most, because it's also affecting engines, and engines are the trade good that affects so many other. But other than glass is a bit expensive, paper is a bit expensive. That can be managed. Maybe some adjustments to hardwoods production. That's just some clicks, because wood in general is pretty cheap over there. So just a bit of micro to fix this one. Let's look at their technology. Behind on production for sure. Not terribly. And their literacy is a bit low compared to most players. Ooh, military, they only just got trench infantry. Oh, that's not good. And behind on society. This is a bit worrisome, to be honest. It's not like their military is that massive. But they're basically trying to compete with Spain and Italy and North Germany. Actually, with their own power bloc, they're competing with Germany more than the others, to be honest. But it's... It's interesting, because if they were Ottomans, in the same very position, it wouldn't be that great, all things considered. But as Greece, technically speaking, starts much smaller, they have to just reconquer the stuff, which, to be fair, they didn't have that much pushback. But I could easily imagine some other people grabbing more, and like they lost the, didn't manage to control Syria in any way. They did manage to get all of Arabia, which is something. I think Byzantium still goes into A. Need to find some people to actually put into lower positions. Do we have... Oh yeah, there's Byzantium. Not made being a bit top weighted is actually fine, I think. We don't have any... I guess we would be... If there was more S-ranked places, we would have fewer places in other top spots, simply because if you get S rank, that means somebody had to suffer in some way, probably. At least geopolitically speaking, because you need to like take stuff, you need to have influence in places. And we don't have player India or China for the most part this campaign. Chile! It's one of the smaller nations. Let's see how they're doing. I think they're going to be leaving the French bloc, which is going to be interesting. Yeah, I think they have the smallest population out of nations in America. Tied with Cuba pretty much. Decent amount of loyalists, good literacy, no debt. How is their investment pool doing? Okay. For their GDP. Actually, they're still getting the bonus from multiplication. They might be one of the very, very few nations that still get it. Player nations, at least. They're not the only player nation that still gets it. Oh, Belgium as well. They have bigger GDP than Belgium. They do have bigger population as well. Actually, Scandinavia also gets the investment bonus. They weren't played last week, I think. But maybe they will be played more in the future. Laissez-faire, Presidential Republic, Universal Suffrage, National Guard. Probably not that meaningful anyways, but... National Guard does have some other uses. I mean, that's like 130 battalions. That's something. Women in workplace... I mean, that's almost as good as women's suffrage, so that's not too bad. At least you're still gaining peasants from more workforce ratio. Getting more colonial affairs. Which might not be necessary, to be honest. Though at the same time, they're probably just trying to look for a way to use their bureaucracy, because they don't have that much population, so that's really cheap. That's like 1.5 buildings. Maybe even one, depending on throughput. They're part of the French market, which... Oh my god, I haven't talked about France yet. Oh my god, this is going to take forever. They're part of the French market for now, but that might not last. They are a bit behind in technology overall, but they have a bit more military than Byzantium even. They could have a few more universities, but really not that many. They did manage to grab some land from Argentina. South American nations are difficult to judge because they have such small populations, and because of how the mass migration mechanics work, usually they don't really get as much in multiplayer as they would, as you would expect them, because other people are just stealing their mass migrations. They don't have multiculturalism as well, which is really locking them out of a lot of possible migrations. Chile has been AI controlled last session. That's, not ideal, though actually not too bad. And of course, AI is building armies, as AIs do in South America. How is Belgium not S tier? Well, we tried paying for it. I mean, Chile has bigger GDP than Belgium, so... Just saying. It's hard to place Chile exactly. I mean, what they did is manage to get Patagonia. I guess a bit in Peru, Bolivia, I think, if I recall those borders. I mean, they're doing okay. It's just at the same time, there's usually not that many players in South America, so they don't really have that much pushback, especially against such modest expansion. They do have pretty good RP, that's true. Yeah, whatever, I'm throwing more people into A. Hopefully people start collapsing next tier list so I can throw them down into Ottoman and so on. Okay, it's still looking fine on the UI, so let's switch to the next one. Yes, there's still France and Great Britain. Okay, Scandinavia, this one is going to be quick. I'm not sure. It wasn't played last session, I think, right? It's like, I think it's been AI. Yeah, because it joins Wolverine as an AI. They managed to get that somehow. They have 100 construction, which is... Yeah, it's hard to say. Very high taxes. Okay, AI is doing some stuff. They're cooking. They're not building anything. Maybe the player left them with some pretty significant debt. They have good amount of radicals. And pretty bad legitimacy. That's actually a significant amount of radicals. The institutions are all over the place. They have graduated taxation, but they still would be making more from proportional. Technocracy, cultural exclusion, national guard, over compulsory primary school, and one of the highest literacies in the game, but not the highest. I mean, pretty close. Technology-wise, getting up there with production, military, actually pretty decent military. They're about to get NCO training, which is pretty important, and almost finished with society. I mean, they did manage to unite Scandinavia. They even managed to get Finland from Russia, which I think Finland... oh yeah, Finland left the Russian Republic as a subject because Russia became theocracy at the time, which broke the personal union. So at some point, I guess they managed to negotiate Finland joining Scandinavia, and they got most of Denmark as well, including Iceland and Greenland. But I think even though like they managed to expand into a lot of direction, I think they're just not doing that well themselves. Like their GDP per capita is pretty rough for such a investments-focused nation. They have a decent amount of investments, but not even that much. Really, Chile controls significant chunk of their own economy. Yeah, I think Scandinavia goes into B, but it's hard to tell as well because AI might have been doing AI stuff. With a player, it might have been much different, but it's hard for me to judge what the current situation in Scandinavia is. They have basically no army and no fleet as well. Also, they joined Zollverein, which they were in their own market before, so who knows what that changed. They do like the Dutch people though, so nice. They have -1 appeasement, of course, but let's keep going. I'm trying to speed up a little bit because I'm actually losing my voice at this point. It's been a while since I've talked it this much. There's a ongoing discussion between the Belgian and the Russian player about the supremacy of Belgium, and also Russia trying to buy Belgium. Belgium is MP. What does that mean? Britain. Okay, so at least we'll have one of those done. Major power. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people being... Scandinavia is an insignificant power, that's rough, but like that doesn't really matter that much, prestige and so on. Belgium has a huge army that they cannot afford, so... there is a bit of that, but also it's not really a problem. They probably have basically no interest. Yep. Pretty much no interest. A huge GDP, though, behind United States, France, and Russia. And they do have population, in theory, to compete with those guys, so... and that's a bit unfortunate for them. Decent amount of loyalists. Really good government. I guess, yeah, they became a single-party state council republic, so that helped. And then now they're going into ethno-state, which probably will change some stuff. Yeah, it's hard to say exactly, because where are even British territories? Britain Ottoman tier for embracing ugly communist flag, says the Grand Columbia player. Netherlands are being threatened over tier list position, over placing Belgium in V tier. Yeah, I mean, getting off multiculturalism is based, but it's silly how the multiculturalism even works in this game. How they made it so easy with the movements. I assume by totally accident. They didn't expect that it would go this way, but going multiculturalism on the current patch is extremely easy. I just want to see. So Britain controls bits here directly. Not really that much, honestly. Nothing that would have a huge population anywhere. I mean, there's probably not even a million here. And they got just probably massive migrations. Yeah, those states here, for the most part, are massive. Yeah, almost getting into double digits in millions. That's actually... They're building with... granted, not that much construction, but they're still making £1 million every week, so that's pretty good. With medium taxes, medium wages. They're building navy, so they probably would want to increase wages, just because recruiting into navy will take forever without that. Oh my god, it's loading long. Looks like Great Britain is massively expanding their navy. And considering they're already #1, that's going to be interesting. They probably will have more than France and Russia combined pretty soon if they continue in this direction. Oh, they have high prices on glass, steel, and engines, with not that much construction. Midlands is the second most valuable state when it comes to GDP. Yeah, 13 million population as well, which is the most valuable. Something in Russia, maybe? So this is 50 million. Yeah, this is not even close. Something in Russia, maybe? 70. Okay, so I guess Tula is the best state when it comes to GDP. Yep. And this, I didn't really expect it to be the glass in particular. Steel as well, and they're still exporting somehow, despite having plus 21%. Seems like it would be pretty expensive. They're importing a lot of engines from America mostly, from Spain, from Italy. A lot from Italy, surprisingly. They're producing a ton of radios and exporting. They probably will stop exporting once they're finished with their navy. Meat prices are high. Maybe people should be building more, what do you call it, livestock ranches. Coal, lead, iron are a bit expensive, but it's still fine. They're actually exporting a good amount of coal, importing a lot of lead. I'm sure they could import even more. Mexico, of course, is in here. They're not really importing that much iron from Mexico, though, of course. Yeah, Great Britain does have some issues with raw materials, but currently it looks like they're mostly missing the construction, like the intermediate industrial goods. Like plus 24% on glass. This is not ideal, I don't think. With such huge numbers, they would need like 30 levels of glass fully employed. Rubber is fine, which is something that you have to keep an eye on. Tools are fine. Exporting a ton as well. To Italy, to Mexico, of course, Gran Colombia, America, Portugal. Oil they're doing fine, though they're actually not using that much. I think like Spain is using more oil than UK. They do have a good amount of peasants. I assume they have just got a ton of migrations from China, I guess. 6 million Chinese. Actually, the main is also Chinese, Punjab. How did they get so many Chinese people? What? I think they were they were the first to get multiculturalism, so maybe that's why. Also, they have command economy. That's right. Protectionism, personal taxation, typical institutions. They still have companies, which, because that's apparently how companies work in command economies, they just continue existing. So there is some private construction ongoing. Yeah, it's all companies. But currently this command economy is just focusing on building ports, so that's not that much to talk about. There is still an investment pool, somehow. How much do they get from government dividends? £2 million. That's a lot of money. So they get 5.55 in national revenue. I think that's the most in the game, right? That much. Russia has like almost 5 million per week, if I recall. Actually, not that almost. 4.3. Because they are making a ton of money, and the government money is really good for making armies. Though their market is slightly worrisome. Let's look what they did on the map. So, well, they kept Canada, which was not a given. They do have a decent amount of colonies in Africa. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty okay. They keep India, they expanded into Burma, they got Malaya, they kept Australia. They do not have Gibraltar, which of course is always a disappointment. Yeah, I'm wondering whether to put them into a... I think they will go into B, simply because they are in a bit of a transitionary period, so it is a bit hard to judge. They switched into different government, they have different command economy, and I think they're going to do something with their navy. But like, what they did is pretty much what you expect Great Britain to do. There's nothing in excess of that. Like, I think Russia did more above the average than Great Britain at this point. Just looking by GDP. UK being number 4 is a bit of an oof. Especially since they... Like, if they had small population, it would be a different thing, but with this... Yeah. Yeah. But I think they might be cooking something, so we shall see. Belgium. Belgium 4th highest soil. Belgium was literate. Belgium S tier. Well, just gotta use your nose. Nobody used their nose to move on the tier list yet, and I mean they could, so why not? 4 nations left, thank God. It's Italy, the last of the semi-great powers, maybe I should call them. The player whose entire reason of being is to take few provinces from Austria, and they haven't yet been able to. They have a lot, they are ready. Like the moment Austria lowers their guard a little bit, those armies are pretty much sitting on the front. Everything is ready here. They have a very high legitimacy, very high church, as you can see. And they are theocracy, universal suffrage, state religion, charity. Yeah, they're going for the religion gaming. Legal guardianship, of course. Child labor, which is a bit unfortunate. They could use... Actually, their literacy is really good. Are they using... Yeah, they're promoting social mobility with autocracy. That's one thing with going religious mode. They do have a lot of authority, so that's pretty nice. Interventionism. How's their investment pool going? Not the highest. 600 construction is also not amazing. Looks like they're expanding their navy. Which, I mean, sure, I mean, their navy is not too bad, but they might be wanting to boost their prestige a little bit. Yeah, so last time there was going to be basically everyone was going to grab a piece of Austria, Byzantium, Italy, Russian Republic, and South German Federation, but at the end, the Austria cut a deal with Russia, and then Russia said that they're going to help Austria, and that ended the whole thing. Apparently now Russia will not help Austria if Italy goes into it alone. But can Italy go into it alone? I mean, maybe they do have 37 million. It's not that much money. Let's look at their technology. Not great on production. They do have chemical warfare, but they are still need to finish some techs in the back. This one might have spread on their own, because apparently the techs spread into next era even if you haven't finished this one, sometimes at least. I think they're still ahead in military compared to Austria. This is a very relevant comparison. Yeah, I mean, they do have machine gunners, which is pretty nice for both offense and defense, and chemical weapons. Maybe Austria has a little bit of that. They have a lot of credit available. 200 million. How much Italy has in credit? I should be able to see it somewhere, right? Credit 100. Yeah, that's half. Even with their gold reserves, that's not that much money. Austria would be able to get million conscripts pretty much. They do have still... Actually, their GDP is not... It is more than double Austria's. And it's not like Austrian market is overflowing with goods. Even now they have some problems with ammunition. They did use the Treaty of Turin already because they lost the bits over here to France. They do have the tech advantage right now. They switch... Oh my god, the military mobilization. Yeah, they have everything. They do need extra supplies for sure, which would increase the cost significantly. I think they would have a chance, but it would be risky. But chemical warfare is really, really good. I mean, if I was playing Italy, I would risk it. Maybe just focus, I guess, probably Stormtrooper. Yeah, Stormtroopers would probably be best as an attack that gives you offense without really requiring any costs. They could get it in 7 years. Ooh, that's a long time. Even if they went into war right away. I'm kind of afraid it would end up in a stalemate. Issue is that UK is defending Austria, says the Italian player. But that might not no longer be the case because, yeah, there's been a bit of a change in ownership in Great Britain. I was just discussing, like, can Italy go against Austria 1v1? And I think that would be tough. But possible, especially if, like, Italy got some good rolls. Other than just eyeing those two provinces, they did get Tripolitania, which is something, and I think that's it when it comes to Italian colonial empire. They're not part of any power block. The technology is fine-ish. Not great, not terrible. They don't have universities. So maybe, actually, if they build universities right now, they could probably speed up the research, directed research much. Yeah, a lot of people would die in case of a stalemate because there's increased devastation from chemical warfare and flamethrowers. And yeah, Italy did start a Sardinia pinmill. I think Italy gets B for the time being. I mean, they formed, but they didn't manage to retake Lombardy and Venetia. But maybe they will be in position to get it soon. But even then, would it be enough to get into A? Well, it depends on how much they roll over Austria, I suppose. 3 nations left. Netherlands are orange. I didn't arrange it to be that way, but it's interesting. France is red, foreshadowing. Okay. Looks like Netherlands is going to be last, which means I can just stock in the shortest because nobody cares against the Netherlands because it's my own nation. Let's look at France. Belgium player accepts Belgium in B tier if Italy is in B tier as well. Chile is proposing alliance with... Yeah, this over here you can see is one of the chief problems with France, is that they have a lot of debt. And they still have over 100 million credit, which is about what Italy can get into. And if they stopped on their construction, which granted is not that much, all things considered, not even 3,000. So considering that, I mean, their GDP is in with the big boys. They are up there, they have more than Great Britain, they have more than the United States, they are second only to Russia. They have like half what the United States have in construction. Granted, they probably don't have... Do they have peasants still? They actually have a good amount of peasants. Their slight problem is that they do have 40% of their economy being controlled by various investors. And sure, you can say they can just nationalize all of it, but that's a lot of people. And mostly it's like South German Federation, Spain, and Chile. Spain is a close ally of France, has been for the most of the game. I'm not sure if it's still after that many revolutions. South German Federation, I mean, that's more doable, but so far South German Federation have been pretty neutral in the French-German conflict, and nudging them in the other direction might not be ideal as well. The only way probably North Germany has any chance is if they play together. Even then, I mean, France has massive amounts of battalions, but there's no way they can mobilize that many of those. Frankly, they have way too many. Russia probably has way too many as well, but they can at least afford those. Actually, Britain has pretty decent amounts of battalions, respectable. Probably more what France should have, because they have mass conscription as well, so they will be getting conscripts anyway, so they're just spending a bit of money for... I mean, they were basically like playing who's the top one with battalions with Russia. and they gave up first, and they are still keeping those battalions, which perhaps is unnecessary. They did name all of them, which is pretty huge, and I respect that. Tarkov Trading Port Guards. It's... what? Why Tarkov? French Legion? Western French Legion? It's pretty cute. They are the second command economy. So, I mean, they could nationalize everything without paying, of course, because if they would have to pay, then they just cannot, really. The play would be, the Italian player says, the play would be to back North German Federation in attacking Austria in a separate war if Austria and Italy get into war. Oh, they're still discussing what Italy could do. Right, the question is the military... Yeah, I mean, 1/3 of the French expenses is on military. That's just way too much, man. And probably... And actually, no, they are producing the ammunition pretty well. They're not even #1, which is actually kind of surprising. Oh wow, that's the highest price of iron I think we've seen so far. They probably could still build more, I assume, right? Yeah, they have so much more iron available. They could easily build more. It looks like the raw resources are still no issue anywhere. Radios are a bit of a problem, which... I mean, that would solve itself if they just reduce their army. Groceries are a problem in a lot of nations. Might be a good export good. Ironclads, of course. That depends. Yeah, France has too big a military. Belgium is nominated for the Best Friend of Everyone award. Not sure if many people will agree. Would be I'm looking at chat for a second. Yeah, they're discussing how Italy and North German Federation could go against Austria together, because then North German Federation could also gain a state to unite into Germany. And though, yeah, the South German Federation also is something to consider. France is producing the most engines by a significant margin, which is really good for their GDP. Second in steel as well. So they are producing a ton of stuff. It's just their ownership, their debt, and their way too big army, which probably the way too big army is the #1 problem out of all of those. If they manage to solve that one, that would be pretty nice. They're getting arc welding, which is really good tech, especially now. And military, actually, I should check how is Great Britain doing on technology. Oh, okay, I thought more people would have more techs in here, but I guess people only have chemical warfare, really. Okay, so they're doing okay on military technology, Francis. Yeah, they're still spreading into submarine, but that's fine. Almost finished with society. And yeah, they got a huge chunk of Africa for themselves, including Madagascar, and they got Taiwan, they got some ports in China. But other than that, I mean, their GDP is really impressive stuff. I think there are plans for coalitions. German federations plus France with Belgium with Austria plus Russia. Belgium is organizing a coalition against Austria and now saying that coalition Austria is cringe. Yeah, the discussions the diplomacy is ongoing in Twitch chat currently. I think France... will go into B. But just barely. They just... I think a lot of their problems could be fixed very easily. But they haven't fixed them yet, so we shall see what they do. And looks... Let's look if Netherlands are indeed going to be the last nation, which at this point it would be the poetic justice. No, unfortunately not. So I can just... I can still go over them pretty quickly, I think. Assuming I remember. Right, so actually a bigger population than I remembered. Almost to the level of Byzantium. So yeah, so I guess it's Spain, Italy, Byzantium, Northern Federation, and Netherlands that are in the semi-great power status. GDP is somewhat behind, though there is Dutch East Indies, which is the X factor basically for the Netherlands. A bit of that, but it's not really a huge problem. I think biggest construction out of the semi-great powers, which is something. Politics, still a monarchy, which is very annoying because I cannot really get a really legitimate government. And the monarch sucks, of course. And the heir also suck, though slightly less actually. Some decent traits. Actually, all of those traits are really good, so if this guy could die, that would be really nice. Freedom of conscience, which I'm probably going to keep for the rest of the game for just a bit of authority. Mass conscription, secret police, typical institutions. Slowly going over out of... Actually, I lowered the colonial exploitation already, so that's pretty nice. Yeah, pretty typical laissez-faire free trade. Market. Radios are a problem because I just cannot get enough of those. There's a pretty significant navy in Netherlands, but I think it's mostly the population. The population is just eating those radios, and I cannot get enough of those. Just a bit of an annoying problem. Yeah, groceries, as in a lot of places, a bit of a problem, though. Netherlands are doing a bit of a thing that Mexico does, which is importing a lot of stuff and also exporting them at the same time, which I probably should fix because it's pretty bad. People are... Russia player is saying that Netherlands might be S-tier candidate as well, considering their sphere and their starting point. Well, we'll get to that. Ammunition is... yeah, that's pretty bad. Though, army... How big is the army? I mean, actually, it's pretty decent, so probably should work on the fixing ammunition. Oh my god, I love the lag when opening any UI menu. The prices are pretty high, to be honest. Even steel and glass should be a bit cheaper. Though that, I guess that's what comes from overbuilding construction. Engines are decent, but yeah, raw resources, again. Raw resources are absolutely fine, and that's mostly coming from trading, of course. But if someone is getting those raw resources. Yeah, of course, the Dutch market is exporting rubber in significant quantities, just tea and probably coffee. Not that much fertilizer. Opium is coming from Vietnam. The entire Dutch opium is coming from Vietnam. Decent amount of oil, though still importing, but exporting more than importing. Oh my god. The Dutch are supporting French market with the Russian oil, pretty much. Yeah, decent silk, importing tools. Export sulfur is actually one of the main export goods of the Dutch market. Somehow, oh yeah, that's the weird thing. Dutch are exporting sulfur to Italy, which has the best sulfur province in the game in Sicily. But I guess they just don't really have a need for it. They have need for more troops, so they're importing the Dutch sulfur. And of course, tobacco being really, really cheap. And oh yeah, that's the weird thing. Netherlands are still exporting tobacco to North Germany despite embargoing them. And I'm not sure how. I think I deleted that trade route. Yeah, it's not here. So is it the Dutch East Indies that are exporting it to Germany? So that's weird. I'm not sure if that's supposed to happen. Production is not great, but those are almost finished, and there's just a few techs left. And military, it looks like the Dutch are the most military ahead nation in the game because they have NCO training with Scud infantry already, I think, in most. I mean, it's already upgrading. It's slow, as I said, because of the mod, but it's happening. And stormtroopers are coming as well. And society is almost finished as well. I'm actually surprised because once the Netherlands expanded into colonies and so on, the literacy dropped by quite a bit. But somehow the tech is still looking pretty decent. There is a bit of a problem with radicals, but it's not like massive. Not bad. Of course, there's the Dutch East Indies, which is an absolute monster. And also, the one small thing is Dutch ownership of foreign investment is pretty good, but the investment pool is about the same as Spain. Okay, people are talking about the oil that the Russia is exporting to the world. They still have huge capacity to build more. And I mean, if you're exporting, you're probably in a much better position than if you're importing stuff, at least the way the game mechanics work. And the Dutch Empire is still pretty significant. There is presence on almost all continents except, I think, North America, because there's a bit in Guyana, a pretty significant chunk of Africa, but about equal with Belgium, which, I mean, I guess it's what you would expect. Dutch East Indies still exist. Vietnam belongs to the Dutch power bloc, and of course, Kyushu, which is the most important state in the Netherlands. 44% of GDP with 8.3 million. I think the reason why it's producing so much GDP is because those states, even though like combined they have much bigger population, they have so many non-GDP producing buildings like the financial district, the companies, and what are the trade buildings? Actually not here, probably here. Where are the trade buildings? 200, yeah, trade centers over here, a bit less over here. See, I think it's just... also armies and navies are of course mostly from those areas. So I think that's what's causing Kyushu to just have access to much more population to actually use in industry. Kyushu is just really good state, like they have a lot of raw resources and a good starting population and a good agriculture as well, which is not always the case. So I really like that my plantation company headquarters are in Ryukyu, which, I mean, it's not ideal. They have half employment, so it's number 4 because of their productivity. It's number 4 company in the world, but I think it's kind of cute. And yeah, there's the Dutch power block, which is actually looking semi-decent, other than the Zollverein French power block and the British power block. It's okay. I think the Dutch go into A. It's almost S tier. I mean, the starting Dutch position is horrible because their states are really bad. Do I put myself in the S tier? I mean, nobody is using to go use nulls to put myself into S tier, so might as well. Actually, you know, other people might use nulls to lower me. So if you think that do not belong to the S tier, then you can do something about this. But you know, I get to look out for myself. Okay, now finally I can get to the last nation. It's the final roulette. Hey, Ferry, which is the Chile player, showed up and noticed their position on the tier list, which is pretty respectable. Okay. Gran Colombia, which is the hermit kingdom of the Americas. They basically played with the authoritarian economy in mind, with a little interaction with the foreign world. Good amount of loyalists, and not super great legitimacy. I think they switched into kind of military dictatorship relatively recently, and or maybe they are doing that right now. They are switching into corporate state autocracy, probably the last player autocracy in the world, I think. A state religion, secret police, of course. No police. I think there was like a great part that didn't have police institution that I forgot about to talk about. But police can be decent when you don't really have radicals. Not having police is not a huge issue, unless you have a ton of radicals. They have per capita taxation, which would be nice to switch off. Industrialists are not really happy. Oh, they've been in military dictatorship for like 50 years. Okay. Regarding, I mean, there's a few laws that could be changed, but because they are playing autocracy playthrough, then changing some of those laws is much more difficult than they would be if you play just the basic liberalize, industrialize, and so on. So, like, even the child labor might be actually could be maybe doable, but maybe they don't want to put people into government because it breaks RP. Institutions are fine. The reinvestments are, of course, pretty small, because there's just pretty much an autarky when it comes to investments. I don't think they can have militarized police force. That's pretty late tech when it comes to... Yeah, they cannot have militarized police force. Otherwise, when it comes to tech, decent on production. Not that great on military, but it's typical for Americas. Not too bad. I mean, it looks like a lot of people kind of ended up going for the same tech level about now. Let's look at Persia again. Are they like behind or something? Yeah. I guess it's just we have everyone, pretty much every nation being recognized. So that helps people a lot with technology. Let's look at their market. Oh, what's okay? Game is stable, kind of. They do have a navy. I mean, 40 ships is actually not too bad, though. It's actually could still be relevant if they allied with someone of the minor nation against one of the other semi-great powers. And there's a lot of imports going into Grand Colombia market, despite them not otherwise interacting that much with the outside world. And they're getting their engines from Germans and the Dutch, and of course, Mexicans. Who else? Engines are quite expensive. They probably have plantations. Actually, oil rigs. How much oil are they producing? Decent amount, actually. And exporting more than half of it, which is the important part. Mostly to Great Britain. Almost exclusively to Great Britain. A Spain player is asking why Belgium is nominated for the best friend for everyone. Well, they nominated themselves, which usually helps with that stuff. Yeah, no real problems with any raw goods, though they are importing a ton of stuff. Also importing and exporting almost the same amount of tools. I really have to like comb through the Dutch trade network and just eliminate all this export-import stuff because it's not good for your nation, unfortunately. I wish it was actually, and you could play like a trade nation, especially if you invest into convoys. Just the cost of convoys is penalty enough, and then the trade routes are not really giving you anything pretty much, which is sad. The best, maybe next time they're going to be the best enemy for everyone in the world. They do have a decent amount of grains in Grand Colombia. They did expand like into the Grand Colombia territory, basically. They didn't really do much, but they were just focused on internal RP, and now they're just doing a bit of trade with people, but their market is not massive. So it's they're doing what they can. They have 200 construction with 1,000,000 peasants, which, I mean, compared to their population size, it's not that bad. So their GDP is, I think it's the lowest out of the Americans. No, they have slightly more GDP than Chile. Interesting that they have higher population. I guess they got a good amount of mass migrations. I think Grand Colombia will go into... I mean, they did take this stuff. They are doing their own thing with a ton of authority, with... Oh, right, that's why they're getting so many mass migrations. They have a ton of green grass campaigns. Basically, actually, I think the question boils down to who I think is doing better, Chile or Gran Colombia. I mean, the Spanish players asking why I placed myself in the S tier. Well, I thought that basically I cannot use nulls to put myself in the S tier. So if someone disagrees, then they can move me down. Oh, sorry, actually, be right back for the awards. Okay, I'm back. So, I think Chile is doing slightly better than Gran Colombia. Though we shall see. Oh, Spain actually does think that the Netherlands belong in the S tier. But they still can't note that. Okay. I see how it is. Okay, so with this, I'm finally free. And so there's going to be, I guess, 30 seconds more if people want to nominate other people for awards, because as it is, we're going to have only one vote for who is going to be the Siegman of Slasher Europe. The R in Belgium stands for respect, says the Spanish player. Chile is going for best friend. Okay, so we are going to have some competition in the awards. This one might be not much of a competition. How is it actually? When I mouse over like this, how do you see this? Do you see them? Oh, you do see the mouse over the tier list, even though... Oh yeah, you see two mouse. Yeah, you can see what I'm talking about. I'm surprised nobody's moving people on the tier list. Like, I would expect people would move people down, so I would put more people in the A and B. But I guess not. Let's get into voting then. How did I do that again? No, not this one. This one. The whatever it's called, award. Best friend forever. Belgium, Chile. Of course, you can buy additional votes with nulls. It's going to be 1 minute. Chile wins, that means you have no integrity, says the Belgian player. Currently, there's 1 vote on Chile. People are just keeping their nulls ready. Tell me you're not nominating, you need to use the questionnaire? I'm not sure how it's called. Yeah, you're nominated. But we're not voting. Okay, now it's 3 for Chile and 1 for Belgium. Maybe using this as a first vote made people not really sure how that works, but looks like Chile has it pretty safely. It's not a democracy, it's wealth voting. Belgium down? That's what I was waiting for. So Chile wins the first award. Not entirely unexpected. I think it was actual democracy vote, as in people didn't use any nulls for voting. Let's go into the second vote. There's thankfully only going to be 2. My voice is almost entirely out. We should receive the 6-9 /R Euro. Austria, right? I mean, not. Yeah, or North German Federation. Go! Yeah, let's see. Does North German Federation or Austria have better friends? Currently, it's fairly even. I don't think Chips is here. So the Austrian player is not going to be able to defend themselves. It looks like Austria has better friends than the North German Federation so far, but I don't think... So far, it's just normal votes. So I don't think there's going to be a rich sponsor to really help Austria. I mean, no, they don't want this award. Though maybe, I mean, an award is better than non-award. Yeah, it looks like we are just getting democratic votes without using any nulls, which is not really in the spirit of well voting, but then again, sometimes things like that have to happen. It is the first tier list of the campaign, pretty late, but it looks like North German Federation wins this one. Not sure if they're happy about that, but yeah. So this is going to be it for this tier list. Thank you guys for showing up. And yeah, see you on Thursday. I see there's going to be definitely at least 1 more tier list after the campaign, but depending on how many more sessions there is, and maybe I will have time to do a few more tier lists. I always want to do those. So yeah, GG and see you guys in the next one.